So let's start, because we are on schedule. Okay, my name is Yann Salzedo. Thanks to everyone. I'm so happy to be... Oh. I'm so happy to be here, thanks to the team who organized this meeting, thanks to Joris, Yann, Katia, and all the people involved. So I'm French. Some of them used to know me as under the name of infographics. There's a lot of change for me this year. I took 20 pounds, a bad combo, the COVID, the lockdown, and a new pasta machine. It's not the only change in my life. For 6 months now, I'm working for a great team, for a great company in Monaco. We're building a wealth management software with FileMaker, of course. And I did learn a few new things working with a big team. So I will try to explain that for my session. I'm a FileMaker developer for so many years now. And you probably know me as a UI and UX evangelist. I used to be a teacher the last 3 years during the lockdown. And I did learn so many things as a UX and UI teacher. And as I said, I'm a speaker for so many different conferences around the world. And this is kind of my work. And we talk about graphics today. This is I think, the graphic and design room. After my good friend Klaus, the session before, he showed you nice UI. My graphics today will be more on the workflow, how to use graphics in your communication and in your project management. So some example of my works. This is a project management tool made with FileMaker. Some data are hidden, of course, some name. Another software. This is for huge, ultra-wide screen. That's why it's so large. And this is something more recent I did in my actual company. We built for our customer. We have a really huge beast software for the wealth management, and they want to give some of the customers the possibility to work with a FileMaker admin server console. So I built this solution for them to use as an admin console. And to limit what they can do, they can close databases and they can run scheduled scripts, only that. And all the work was based on the nice UI and a lot of feedback for everything they can do. So, based on this example, I will talk about graphics today and the way we need graphics everywhere, every day as a developer. So we need graphics to communicate with our team, to communicate with our customers. We need graphics to prepare projects. We need graphics to validate solutions, to validate technical solutions, to validate visual design. And at the end, like Klaus presented earlier, we need graphics in the UI at the end. Most of us are not graphic designers. So if you are not a graphic designer, if you don't have dedicated softwares, maybe there's other solutions. And I will present the use of UI kits in your workflow today. So this is what we call a UI kit. It's a library of assets. You have fonts, you have colors, you could have fields, buttons, windows, styles, and I will explain how to connect these kind of tools with our habits in FileMaker, with our themes and styles. Everyone have saw this kind of library before? Yeah. FileMaker themes are not UI kits. UI kits are not FileMaker themes. In the UI UX design workflow, a little reminder, we usually start with research. After that, we do some sketching. Maybe you use to this workflow. We do what I'm called wireframing. This is simple structure of an application, of a solution. We work on the design, the UI design. We do some prototyping, testing some solutions, some navigation, and so on. And we test and deliver to the customer. In this workflow, I can use UI kits for in most of the steps. Starting with sketching. So I use Balsamiq software. Balsamiq, I don't know if you use this software to draw, to sketch. So I can sketch manually, but I can use the Balsamiq software that gives the same look and feel of graphics. He has his own asset and UI kit library integrated. But you can have some library looking like ND sketchy graphics. The step after that is wireframing. So you need a lot of objects, a lot of assets when you want to present a large solution or even a small function in your development. You can collect library for free, or some of them you have to pay for. But you have a lot of choice to build rapidly something really professional and nice, and in the same time that give you ideas. So I'm doing wireframing for many years. I use Sketch, a software on Mac. And during my years as a teacher, I learned Adobe XD. And Adobe XD is a really great tool for prototyping and wireframing and thinking about a solution. The next step is the visual design. So make the thing pretty. This is a solution I made with FileMaker. It's tracking expenses for a pharmaceutical software. So you can do pretty nice things. This is not UI kit, by the way. On the FileMaker level, I did all the graphic myself. But the visual design is the seduction part. It must be aesthetic. It must be useful. So it depends on the level of creativity of the designer and the time you take, because it takes a lot of time, of course. You have to work on colors, fonts, icons, and, of course, native FileMaker object. And last step is prototyping. So prototyping is testing kind of function without final development. So you can do that, of course, with FileMaker. There are dedicated software like Adobe XD I use to work with Adobe XD to prototype some solutions. So it's a way to present the app. You can work on the navigation, on what kind of windows I have after the previous one. Okay, you can work on every kind of step of interaction. So at any stage, you need this kind of graphics. And if you want to work faster, and if you are not so easy with design graphics, or if you don't have the dedicated tool, if you don't have an Adobe subscription, you can buy ready-made UI kits. And this kind of library can really improve your workflow and give you idea. So as I said, UI kits are a collection of graphics. Most of the time is PNG, is PSD, so PSD is for Photoshop, or PNG format. Some of them are SVG. These kind of resources can be used on your FileMaker screen if you want to put them as a graphic, but most of the time you can use as an idea for building better button or UI on your FileMaker if you don't have the dedicated tool like a Photoshop or a XD. You can find free tools maybe on the internet. Canvas, maybe you can use Canvas with this kind of graphics. I don't know if you use Canvas. It's a software on the web to design. You can see UI kit as Lego bricks. Okay, you have pieces of material, you can just put it on a grid and to build really fast a navigation, for instance. This is an example. If you have to design rapidly for a customer, logging page, going to a list, and after that, logging to a form, to explain that to a customer, it's much more clear to present this kind of graphics of screen. And I built that in 10, 20 seconds because I have the right library. I just open a library of assets I have. I have dozens of different libraries. I wanted something simple. I didn't want color. I wanted something really basic. And in a few seconds, I can put 3 objects, 2 rows, and my customer can understand that, okay, my login is on the first screen, I go to a list, and after a list, I click on a row, and I go to a form. You can explain it really easily with this kind of tools. And you don't have to spend time and hours designing every little object. So, as I said, I have dozens of kits on my hard drive. I bought some of them. I collect for free other kits. You can find all around a bunch of UI kits. All the major editors, Apple, Microsoft, Google, you can find kits for any kind of devices. This is the Apple Design Resource page. You don't have to be a subscriber developer. It's free for everyone. And if you have to know something to build on an iPhone, on an iPad, even on the watch, you have the dedicated UI kit. You have the same thing with Google Material. On the right, you have Microsoft. So you have kits by OS. You also have kits by software if you want. WordPress, everyone knows WordPress. Keynote is the tool I'm using for my presentation. You know, Keynote, PowerPoint. You have dedicated website to download and to buy UI kit. So you have every asset you need to make a good presentation according to your use. So if you do a wireframe or if you try to make a high-quality mockup, you don't need the same kits. Some are more colorful than others. So I use a black and white or gray and white for wireframing. It's OK. If I want something more sexy, I need colors. So maybe if I have to work in the food industry, I will look for UI kit dedicated to this market. As I said, sometimes you need specific software. I use Adobe XD, but you have a lot of tools for free, and you have tools online. Today, Figma is really popular in the community, and it's working with all the steps of the development, from wireframing to final prototyping. This is the kind of window you have in a Sketch, in the Sketch app. Sorry, it's Adobe XD on this one. Adobe XD again. So you see in one page, you have the colors, you have the icon, the fonts. And of course, with FileMaker, we have some company that deliver some tools. We have less than big solution or big product like WordPress, of course. But you all know Matt Petrovsky in the community. He's doing a great job in the UI. And you can buy from him collections of objects. It's between a template and a UI kit. This is the ugly example. This is the free ugly example you can download, but most of all the work is way better than that. Don't be worried. And you have the work from Richard Carlton and Nick Hunter. You can buy a kind of template with everything with a dedicated look and feel. So you have a green template and a red template, two different kind of graphics, and you have all the buttons, all the windows, the fonts, everything is prepared, ready to use in a solution. So this is a clause you can find on the internet. The other way is to build your own UI kit. So, as I presented earlier, the one you buy, the one you find. So it's good for preparing a project, but as I said earlier, in my design, in my FileMaker solution, I prefer to create my own object, my own assets. So I'm trying to build my own kit each time. I want to try something new from a solution to another. And we have everything in FileMaker to build into FileMaker, into a solution, a custom UI kit. So since I work in a new company with a team, I have to improve this workflow because I'm working with other developers. I have to share. We are working on the same solution. Most of them are non-designer. And to ensure the consistency between different people working on the same product, this kind of tool is mandatory now. So this kind of window is what I call my UI kit in a solution. It becomes a single source of proof of asset for everyone. I can pick in one place an object when I need that, and I have everything in the same place. The fonts I use, my color palette, more than the usual UI kit. On FileMaker, we need some time to see the different steps on a button, the different status of a field, on hover, on click, inactive or active. With a kit, we can display the different steps of this kind of graphics. You know that I'm an advocate for a long time of the grid system, and I think that using a UI kit and a grid system solve 99% of the problem. The grid systems helps you to decide the size and the position of every object. As soon as you have a library of this object, you solve most of the problem. So this is the way I intend to work now. As I said, with FileMaker, if you decide to build your own UI kit, you don't need third-party software. Most of the objects you want to use are FileMaker native. So I said most of the objects because still the icons is a lot of work, and it's so easy to buy a huge library of icons. Now you can find library of 4,000 icons for a few bucks. So I don't design icon anymore, but I build all my different objects, my windows, my popover, my field. I design everything. So one time again, the project I worked on this summer and the UI kit layout. So this is a layout into the solution. This layout is named UI kit layout, and I put everything in the same layout. So it's perfect to build a ready-to-go kit connected to the theme and style. I will develop a little bit about the theme and style. Another way to arrange your library is to use a tab panel. Sorry, this is in French, but you have colors, fonts, fields, titles, icons, buttons, popover, and so on. So if you don't have a really huge screen, as I have, you can have tab panel and arrange everything properly. This is an example of the field panel. I associate my object to my FileMaker style. So in red, I have the style name. So on the top, I have the example, the detail of a field or a button in the different states. And on the bottom, I have the final object, okay? Because not most of the time, all the time, you don't have all the state of an object. If I want to see my normal design versus my other design, I have to play with my button, or I have to play with my field. If you put your object like that, you can see all kind of anatomy of your fields and your button at the same time. So for the consistency of your object, if you want to be sure that you have the same color on the other on the button or the other on the field, you have to put them side by side, and you can see and check if everything is correct. At the end of the day, on the bottom, you have the final object with the good right style. So I don't use, and this is one of my next slide, try to avoid the default style of the FileMaker theme. So as soon as I put a new object, I create a dedicated style. So for my development, I have a dummy style for all my development and in-process object, and I have the final style name at the bottom. Is it clear for everyone? So I try to never use default style. That can be dangerous. So as I said, create a dummy style for dev purpose, like this. So all the 4 objects have the same dummy styles. So with an error, of course, in the layout. And at the end, I have the right style. In the final layout for my user, because this is my developer layout, in the final layout, I will only have right object with the right final user style, of course. So this is a way to present different states of a button or different states of a field. You cannot, in another way, you cannot check between the active step of a button or active state or normal state of a button of a field. You have active, inactive, over, press, in focus in the same screen. You can compare things, okay? You understand the benefit of this kind of way to present your object. So I can check if all my corners have the same radius, kind of stuff. I have everything in the same layout. So as I said, create some good practices. Create a custom theme for your solution. Don't use default style. As soon as you put something on the layout, it has a default style. Try to rename it as soon as possible. Every object needs a style for performances. So you see, I click on an object, we have a bunch of styles in our library. I discovered a tool. I don't know if some of you you know this theme editor is a FileMaker solution to play with theme editor. You can look for on Google. So with this tool, with a very easy way, you can copy a style, paste it in this solution. You need the base element plugin for the free one. And you can change the CSS and inject the CSS with the past in your own solution. When you paste it the second time, you don't erase the previous one. You add a new theme in your solution. And as you know, when you create a custom theme, it's attached to your solution. It's not attached to FileMaker app. You can move the solution to another computer, you still have your custom theme. And you can do some specific thing you cannot do with the inspector. As an example, a checkbox with rounded corners, or a transparency for the portal scroll bar. If you go to the Claris community, you see every month a question about how can I have a transparent scroll bar. With this tool, in few minutes, I wasn't an expert with theme editor. In few minutes, I changed few lines in the CSS because the CSS is really well documented. You see where is the checkbox, where are the portals, and even you are not a CSS or HTML expert, you can change and modify, and you have much more attributes on your hand to customize your solution. So let's try this tool, and it's, if you are interested in design, it's a really nice tool. So, benefits of using a UI kit. As I said, for the first part of your workflow, as soon as, before you starting your development, of course, it's useful to buy for a few bucks a kit of graphics to create a mock-up in a few minutes, to present a nice design to a customer, to pitch an idea. But when you develop, when you are not only in a team, but only if you are a solo developer, it could be interesting to build your own kit, your own material, and you can use the same material from solution to solution, and sometimes you improve, you add new object, and you have something consistent. And not only consistency, but you, of course, you gain time, not doing the same stuff every time. Simply a palette, a color chart, color palette. The work to create a new color palette for each solution is way better to copy and paste something, a theme. So it's a repository of all your assets. It's ready to use assets if you done the UI kit with native FileMaker object, of course. This asset, this object can be copied and pasted from the UI kit to the final layout, so it's obviously time benefit. For collaboration, so you have consistency in your UI when several developers work on the same solution. Just copy and paste from the same layout, the same UI kit. It's the better way to ensure a consistency and not that kind of error if someone builds from scratch a new object without connection to the previous one. So everyone involved in the project has the same vision of the final product, starting from the kit layout. You save time and money, even if it's an extra step. So your development team, or you as a solo developer, does not have to create new element from scratch for any solution. Or in a huge solution, like the one I'm working on for a month, we create new layout every week, and we have a lot of work, so it's easier to have a UI kit. So even if you have a lot of solutions, you looking for an object, you remember that, oh, I have this kind of object, I have this kind of button in the previous solution, looking in your layout, browsing in your layout, it's quicker to have a library somewhere in a dedicated place, like a kit layout. And the larger the project is, the more interesting, of course, this kind of habit is. So it simplifies your work. This kind of kit reduces the questions about the behavior of certain elements, because it's not only the graphics. You can you can put in your kit popover with opening instruction, opening scripts, and navigation stuff. So it's FileMaker, so it's graphics, but it's sometimes part of scripts, pieces of script with a little bit of interaction and UX. So it's not only UI, it's also UX. So this relieves the developer for design issues, design questions. Of course, it's an extra design step. It's a little bit more of work. If you are alone, it could be a question, okay, does it worth the cost to add this extra step? I think if you are a group of developers, there's no question at all. You will have benefit, of course. And if your team of developers have no design skills, of course, you have the benefit. And as I said, if you associate the grid system that I present for years with the UI kit, you solve 99% of the issue, the question you could have in your design. And I think I was really fast today. I'm not used to, but you push me with the, okay, thank you. So you have a lot of time for questions if you have questions.
So why should we avoid the default style?
Because
you say it's dangerous.
Because of the
cascading. Can it kill us?
Because of the cascading underlayer in the CSS, when okay, we'll try child and parent. When you create object from the default style, if you change the default style, some child object can change in the same time. So try to play with FileMaker if you didn't try it before. Create field coming from, copy and paste from the default, or copy object from a default field. Create a new style if you want. If you change the fonts, the size, the style, something bold or not, or the color, you have other style that can change. So if you have, and if you play, if you use styles and themes in your solution, it's because in every layout you have a lot of objects related to this style. You can change once one default style and a bunch of other things can change. Try that. And it could be scary. So when you're alone to work with, there's no risk. But one time I was working in my previous life as a custom developer. I was working on a solution made by someone else. Another developer which was still working on this solution, and I was working on more difficult part of the solution. And the guy doesn't know nothing to the style, never use. So everything has a default style. Because if you don't change specifically an object, it keeps a default style. So at the end, you have thousands of objects with default style for every one of them. And one day it changed the style, the default style. And there are a lot of surprise in the form and stuff. So the first thing I used to do when I have an object, if I want to play with that, if I want to explode my object to see different state of a field of a button, I create dummy style. So all my different graphics have the same dummy styles, but I don't care. I use it only for dev purpose. Is my answer understandable?
Just
in my bad English?
Thank you, yeah. Just to add on the default style, it can actually serve a great purpose. If you study, take the time, like Yann suggested, to study the behavior of the default style, you can actually use it to cascade affect massively your whole application on purpose, not by accident. So it's a great, great, great way to massively change the font application-wide or the color of something application-wide. But my other question for you was, I was thinking about the consistency part of using UI kits and using universal styling. Sometimes, did you find yourself that your whole application that way looks like the same and the users get confused by not exactly being able to identify the context they are right now? So do you have any tricks on that, how you can help from the first hand to use the same styles and same UI kits, but from the other hand,
I don't, the same UI kit between different solutions?
No, within the same application.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips about helping the users identifying layouts from the visuals?
Oh, for years, a bit changed with time, with age, and you're really into one kind of way of designing stuff. For many years, in my beginning years as a developer, I used colors. Because in the beginning, when I start a long time ago, I did the support by phone. So my user was in front of his screen. I didn't see my user screen, so I have to figure where is my user. And most of the time, the user is lost in the solution. So I have the habit to use colors. So let's say for project management solution, the project has a color, the invoice has another color, the clients have a third color, and the first thing I asked to my customer was, what color you have on your screen? And he told me the color, and I knew where it was. So I use a lot of the colors. And probably I have, this screen was an heritage. Not this one, I don't have it. So this is a last release, but this kind of software, the first release, this is a new release, but the first release, every module has a dedicated color. Now, I don't do that because I'm using the colors into the UI as, yes, like Klaus said with the traffic light earlier, I use it as a data to communicate. Red is bad, green is okay. So I don't want a Christmas tree effect. So I try to reduce the color in the UI. So I put the title or the name of the module in really big. I use the hierarchy visualization tips. And now with the support, we use remote software, we use Teams. I see my user screen, so it's much more easy. So I try to work on navigation the most I can. I try to limit the choices of my user. So a strong navigation with maybe 2 layers of navigation, a global navigation, a local navigation. So more in the hierarchy, I try to work this way. But I try to improve. There's no perfect rule. So depending on the size of the project, of the experience of the user. So, but I try not to listen to the customer who want everything on the same screen. So it's really bad. So it's part of our work to try to find the right way to do things. Other questions? Yes.
Thanks. So I do also like design on beforehand, but then we always have the problem, how are you going to name the style? So how does the developer, well, we have sometimes that like we put like the size of the style within the name and something, and other developers think that's not a good naming convention. Do you have tips about that, or do you?
The biggest issue is when you name and you're wrong and you erase the name, you cannot use it another time. So you have to be good on the first time. It's depending. Now I'm working in a new company, new in the habits for me. So they have their own way to naming. I used to name with, let's say, portal, the thing I use in a portal, the thing I use in a tab, I put POR, and after the kind of usage I want. a field if it's on the right side, if it's on the right, on the left, the indentation and the alignment. I try to put this kind of information in the name. I want to know if it's, obviously, I know it's a field because the style for the field stay in a dedicated list, but if it's a right, a left alignment, kind of size, 12 point, 40 point, I put this kind of information in my name. The thing is, you cannot enlarge the list, so it must be short. So I have no good advice. There's not, yes, there's not a good rule to do the things. The thing is, try to put as much as information as you can, because it's the way you can, the way it can be useful, but in the same time you are limited by the width of the list.
Yes, it's just a discussion because some developers think that's really handy that you see the size and left, right, and some developers just want to know, okay, I have a title here, I want to select this one.
Yeah, but the thing is, let's say, if I have, if I use a label, my label has, I have a white background everywhere, so I use a gray label. I don't need to indicate the color because I use only one color of label. If I have a sidebar with a black background and I have label white on black, so I have a second color, so I have a label gray and a label. And in this kind of situation, I need to add in my name the color because I need to make the distinction. I need to understand which color is. So depending on the complexity of the more complex your solution is, the more style you need. And if you have a lot of different declination, different variation of the same object, you have to go deep in the naming thing. So I don't like to short too much 3 letters per to indicate something I don't understand at the end. But, so there's not really a solution. So as long as you use style, it's okay. Because
yes, okay,
some people doesn't use style.
Okay, 2 questions.
Excuse me. To follow your question earlier, I remember about the default. I talked about Mike Petrovsky earlier. I think it's free on YouTube. He has a really great video for free on YouTube about don't use default styles with FileMaker. Yes.
Okay. 2 questions.
Yes.
How many objects do you have? How many styles do you have? How many types of fields do you have?
Depending on the
Normally,
solution.
do you don't limit that, or do you just have
no, you have no limit.
A ton of them, or
depending on the solution. The thing I try.
Okay, I have another question.
I try not to have too many different. You know, you say motto, I think in English. My motto is the sentence from Saint-Exupéry about the perfection. The perfection is not when you have no more to add, is when you have no more to retire, to delete. Oh, you say, Egbert? You take out, yes. So when I design something, I try to put everything I need, and after I try to reduce as possible. If I don't need 2 different sizes of titles, if everything works with one big size, it's always better for the design, for the readability of the UI. I don't need maybe 3 different sizes of object, of fields. If one is okay, I try to go with one. If I can do the same thing with less color, okay, I try. So at the end, I keep only the style I need.
So keep it simple.
Yeah, of course.
And the second question, do you have anything for the grid system that you were talking about?
More than what I present for 10 years now?
Any application? No, maybe some of the people haven't seen the grid system. Not that you need to go into details, but maybe you can point to reading materials, or maybe you have an app or something.
I used to have an app on the App Store, but I think it's not available anymore. maybe next
I think,
time.
Yann, you have a lot of presentation up online right now.
Yeah,
from DevCon and other things. So
I remember in
read about
Elsinore, the
grid,
last Scandinavian DevCon I did
Exactly.
a few years ago. It was about the grid system.
It's really good what Klaus said here. It's a really good thing if you're into design to get in and understanding the grid. So definitely look into what Yann has done before.
Any more questions? Yes?
Do you test your UI kit also on cross-platform, so Windows screens? Does it make a lot of difference?
Yeah, I have two lives. As I said, previously as a custom developer, I used to know the device of my customer. So I build solution for dedicated devices. The last big solution I did, the pharmaceutical thing, I showed a little iPhone thing, but behind that there's a huge solution, and my customer use tablet PC, Microsoft tablet PC. So when I have this kind of customer, I try everything on the same device because there are some slightly differences between Macintosh and, I'm a Mac user, between Macintosh and Windows, the fonts, the padding around things, and so, of course, I try to test. Now with the new company, I'm working on Mac for customers on PC, so I try as much as possible. At the end of the day, I have to try and to test and to validate things on Windows. So because I'm using FileMaker, the kit I'm doing, the kit will be working on Windows and be Mac compatible, of course. So we have to choose. The thing is about the fonts, only the fonts. The other objects, there's no problem between Mac and PC. We don't work on, I have pretty no experience on WebDirect, on WebDirect on Mac and PC, but everything we did is for FileMaker Pro or FileMaker Go. So we know the app. We can test on a PC if we want. So the font is the only issue if you don't work on that. Yes?
Can you tell a little bit about the last period of your solution deployment, about the testing one? Do you do it on yourself, or how much time are you spending with customers? Are they testing the solution? Do we have some? Are you changing after that testing when the customer is trying to use the app?
Okay, so once again, I will talk a little bit more on my previous life as a custom developer, because in my new life, there's a team that's dedicated to the testing, because it's so sensitive software, because we work in the financial business. There's no way the customer has to test and to find an error. So, but before, in my previous life, as I say, when I did develop a solution, it was a smaller scope, so a dedicated software for small to medium company with few users. I knew the devices, I knew the customer. If there's a bug, it's not a big deal because I can correct. With FileMaker, you can easily correct the bug. So the primary test I made was testing the request from the customer. Okay, you want that, I develop, I give you that. It works. But in the customer life, most of the time, there's a lot of things the customer didn't tell you when you dev. Oh, I forgot to tell you that, and few things doesn't work. This is the kind of things you all know as a developer. We have to follow the customer for months or years to fix few things. So basically, the testing outside of my office, 99% of everything was working based on the request at the beginning. There's no chance to have an issue. My kind of customer was small to medium business. It's not huge what kind of test do you think of bugs do you have? For me, a test is something working depending on the request. So do we have another thing in mind? Because for me, it's not such a big deal. The test, oh, sorry, in the, I don't, as I said, oh, the test for the graphics you mean? Yes. Oh, okay, sorry. I don't let my customer choose the graphics. Plain and simple. I'm the professional. I know what is best for him. Because as I said, if you listen to your customer, you want every button on the same screen. And I know it's bad. As I said to my customer, I'm your doctor. When you enter to a doctor office, you don't say to your doctor, I want you to fix me like this and this. You expect the doctor give you the right, or you say ordonnance? Prescription. Yes. So I think I'm good enough to know exactly what is the best for him with the request he has and the budget he has. I try to do my best. And most of the time, I listen to the customer. Sometimes he has business requests so special, I have to think the way to respond to this specific request. But from a design point of view, I'm a kind of God. I choose and I say, I choose that. No, I'm kidding, but I don't say, we are developers, I talk you like that, but I don't talk this way to my customer. Of course, I used to be more polite. So the only way you can change something, and the only risk you have, let's say because I'm working on Mac, I have really nice screen, high quality screen, and sometimes you do something really subtle, and if he has a really bad PC Dell screen, yeah, you have to fix things because he has, but most of the time I knew my customer devices, so I try to figure, okay, where can I go? But after that, you can have maybe you design, because I did a lot of design on iPhone and iPad, you design things and you forget the guy is outside with the sun and stuff like that. But with the experience, you learn, so you don't do the mistake twice. So you have to think of this kind of stuff. But now most of the devices are good, even the PC, even the Dell. And if you know your stuff, you know where you can push the limits. Subtle gray with white is no good, not good match. So stuff like that. But yes.
Going back to the fonts, if you want to use fonts that are not on the OS, is there any way now to embed fonts in either the style of the CSS or
so
anywhere
Egbert
else?
has a solution to embedding fonts in the FileMaker. The thing after that is copyrights, the rights to use fonts. So you are pretty much limited to what the system offers. So on PC, I try to push Segue. I don't know how you pronounce that in English. Segue fonts. It's a really nice font. Made for screen, and on Mac, you have the font you have in your system, and you have to be careful that the font you have on the Mac are not. You can use all the font on your Mac on FileMaker, but the font in FileMaker Go, if you have an application, a solution you share between FileMaker Go and your Mac, you don't have the same font. I think SF Pro, the last one, you cannot use it on FileMaker Go. So you have not so much font. Even you can embed Egbert. So as I said, if you went in .fm now, so the last time Egbert organized .fmp Berlin, he sent us a solution to create our own page, and he has a solution to embed fonts, and something really clever. I asked him the secret.
Okay.
But the thing after that, as I said, is the rights to use fonts. Okay? No more questions?
So this is the last one, I think, because we need to run up.
So this is also a question about fonts, because
Yes.
actually I like to play around designing and explore everything, but one thing which I've been used in 25 years is Arial font.
Oh.
Because it's safe in all operating systems. So do you have a default list of fonts which are safe in all?
So as I said, you work more on Mac or more on PC?
Both, because the customers use everything.
On PC now, as I said, for the color, for the habits, the way the font is the same thing. For a period of time, you're in love with a font and use this font every day for years. So now, for a few years now, on PC, I really like Segway. On Mac, Helvetica Neu was my favorite, but Arial, no. It's like, I remember a few years ago, Verdana, everyone talking about Verdana.
Stick to web-safe fonts. It's a safe trick because they will always be in your OS, so then you don't have to cater if it's Mac or Windows. So web-safe fonts are the ones to go for it first, and you can always go with the ones you like, but then you need to make sure they're on the computer you're going to run something.
I remember a conference at the DEF CON, Ever, who was in charge of the design for FileMaker, a long talk about Verdana, the usage of Verdana and Arial. So we have a long DEF CON conversation after a keynote. So as long as you don't use comic fonts, that's okay. Okay, thank you.